Hey guys, I just wanted to make this very quick video before our podcast. We actually filmed it earlier today, so what you're about to see in the podcast we filmed earlier today, but unfortunately we had a bit of a mistake regarding the audio. The way that our mixer works, it goes through a couple of adapters and then through the camera, and we have our headphones plugged directly into the mixer, and there's unfortunately a lot of hiss and a lot of buzz throughout the podcast that you're going to hear, and we didn't hear that while filming because we get the audio straight from the mixer. The problem actually happened in the adapter part of the wire that goes from the mixer to the camera, and unfortunately I didn't know about it until after the entire hour and 15-minute podcast was completed. And it's not terrible. It's definitely noticeable, and it's definitely annoying. So if you want to watch the podcast, I do apologize, but if you don't want to watch it, or if you try and watch it and you just can't because the buzz and the hum is just too annoying, I completely understand and I apologize. But we fixed the problem, and we're going to get some new wires and stuff, so it won't happen again in the future. But I appreciate your patience, and thanks for watching. I hope you're having a good day, and we'll see you in the next podcast or video with good audio. Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. It is podcast number 72. We're coming at you on April 21st, 2019 on a Sunday.
Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday. My name's Neil. I'm joined here with Brent.
Hello.
Happy Easter, or
yep,
if you don't celebrate that,
Joyeuse Pâques for our French-speaking viewers.
Whatever he said.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Yeah. You'll notice that the jerseys behind us are in completely random order. There are certain teams that, like the Islanders, that have eliminated the Penguins that maybe should be up there, but they're not. We just literally put them up in random order. People always comment and ask, or not always, but
often.
Last podcast, because they were up there random, people were upset because there wasn't a Toronto jersey up there. And
no.
I know.
And look what it did. It ruined their chances for
the
playoffs.
God forbid.
The poor Leafs, just because of us, they're now going to lose. Oh, no, hold it. They're up 3-2 over the Bruins and could close it out today.
As we're filming this, yeah. Things could change.
Yeah. So probably whether the jersey's on the wall back there or not doesn't affect the rotation of the earth, right?
I agree. Anyway. I made sure that there was a Toronto jersey up there this time.
Good man.
Generally, if we didn't do the recap videos on some of the elimination series, we'd have a lot to talk about in this podcast.
Yeah,
but
all kinds.
Since we did those recap videos, that eliminates probably about 50 minutes of conversation.
It does. However, just as I bring up from time to time, there are consumers of this media today that do not watch the show or the channel on YouTube. So they may be denied our wisdom. So I guess I'm not saying we need to take 50 minutes and talk about them, but we shouldn't just automatically decide we can't talk about them, because we really can.
We can talk about them, but I prefer to steer those people towards the YouTube channel to watch those videos.
Fair ball?
Boom.
Boom. Head on over.
Anyway, let's talk about all the series real quick.
Sure.
So the Columbus-Tampa Bay series, which is over, we've done a video recap on that series. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. I don't know if I have anything else to say other than I'm excited for Columbus in round 2.
Yeah. Awaiting the winner of Boston-Toronto. The next series is going to be fantastic. On one hand, Boston or Toronto might be saying, hey, they knocked off Tampa. That's great. And then the reality will set in, hey, these guys knocked off Tampa.
Yeah,
maybe that's
good.
not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Columbus has been playing great hockey, so
and
whoever beats them.
That's a lot of rest for Columbus. I think it's over a week.
Yeah,
that they're gonna.
It will be.
It's going to be like 9 days.
Rest is good. Too much rest, not so good.
Yeah. So
there's a happy medium. I don't know when Torts expects to get them out and bag skating them, and, getting them back into game shape here, but they can't sit back too many days and eat cheesies.
Exactly. And on the other hand, if Boston wins today, and this Toronto-Boston series goes 7 games, that's going to be a tired team, whoever comes out of that series, playing a very well-rested team. So, it's going to be an interesting round 2, for sure.
Very indeed.
The Islanders in Pittsburgh, that's over. We made a video recap as well. One thing I didn't mention in the video is the play of Jordan Eberle. I feel like this series, and maybe this year, has really jump-started his career again. And that makes me pretty happy because I do like Jordan Eberle as a person. Never did so much as a player. Now I'm starting to, now that he's actually living up to his potential. Because before he entered the NHL, when he was playing for the Canada team at the Canada Juniors or whatever, or the Worlds, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like his bar was very high, and he never really lived up to it. But he always had the potential, and you could see it. He just was a bit inconsistent. And I feel like this year he found his consistency. And this series he was fantastic. So I'm hoping we see that in round 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Anything to add from?
No, not really. We did a good. I thought we did a very good job. I think the viewers thought so too, or at least 10,000 of them did, or however many views it got. Holy smokes, that was a lot of views.
A lot of views.
So I think we said it well.
Excellent.
I'm thrilled. The only thing that may have been more recently breaking news. I don't know if they've made any progress whatsoever on the venue issue.
I hear some Islanders fans saying it's 100% going to be in Barclays, and I hear other fans saying that it's in the process of moving to Nassau. So I don't know who to believe or who to trust. I'm not from there. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know if it's been officially been announced yet. But anyway.
Well, let's just hope that if they haven't decided yet, they'll decide right and keep it out in Uniondale.
Boom.
That's where it's got to be. It's got to be out there. I love it.
I agree. Toronto-Boston, 3-2 currently for Toronto in that series. Game 6 is today. Any predictions that you'd like to make? Or anything that you'd like to say about this upcoming game?
I predicted Boston would win this series in 7 games. Last game, you and I watched it together, and it was the 2-2 tied game. It was back in Boston for the extra home ice game that Boston gets. And I remember saying to you early in the game, whoever wins this game wins the series. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily in Game 6, but whoever wins Game 5 is going to win the series. Toronto won Game 5. And now they're back in Toronto. You've got a Toronto team that's more or less healthy, more or less confident, still has its risks, especially at the blue line. But I think they're in Boston's heads a little bit because they just beat Boston now twice at home. And I actually think Toronto's going to close it out. Today.
I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it, but I think it actually might happen.
I think it might happen.
Although, with that said, I kind of hope that it doesn't happen because I think a Toronto-Boston series should go 7 games.
It would be.
It's deserving of a 7th game. As a hockey viewer,
Yeah.
we want to see that 7th game, and I hope that 7th game goes to overtime as well. But Boston, in that last game that we watched, the urgency just was not there for Boston. They just didn't want it bad enough, I felt. They didn't have a lot of chances on Anderson, and the chances they did have, Anderson looked absolutely fantastic. The goaltender interference call is something that we have not discussed on camera.
And we have to.
What are your thoughts on that first Toronto goal? Or first? I don't remember which one it was.
Now, there have been so many goaltender interference calls or non-calls in the last few days, you might need to refresh my memory on this one.
It's the one where, who was it? I think it was Hyman.
Hyman.
Cross-checked the defenseman in front of him, which pushed him back into Tuukka Rask, and the puck went over to Matthews on the other side, and Matthews scored.
Yeah. That's the note I had, but I wasn't sure if my note was from Wednesday night or from Friday night. Okay, so this is different. I don't know about that exact play, but I think we're not too far off in the consistency meter just yet, but we were close last night. There was a long, long wait on goaltender interference as to what constitutes bringing it back or not. And we'll talk about that when we talk about last night's game a little more. But on the Hyman play, basing it on history, going back a few years, I would say that might be goaltender interference.
Absolutely.
But
100%.
But now the way they're calling it, I don't know anymore.
I don't know. I think that was the wrong call.
I think that was the wrong
I think that was the wrong call based on how they're calling it now. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, you almost can't compare 2 years ago to now. You can't even compare last year to goaltender interference calls to now.
Yeah, that's true.
2 years ago, Carey Price was literally drug out of the net.
He was drug out of the zip code.
He was so far removed from the net that on the top-down view of the net, he wasn't in frame. And that was called a good goal. And then we had, I think it was a goal earlier this year, I think maybe on Tuukka Rask, or it was Toronto or Boston, one of them. And it was called like the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to be called. So, although I think we're getting more consistent, there's still a problem.
There's still a problem.
There's still a problem with goaltender interference. I just don't. It seems really frustrating as a fan, because you don't know what they're going to. You don't like usually or hopefully when you see a play, if you know the rule, then you should feel pretty confident about your decision on what they're going to come back with at center ice with a call. And that's unfortunately not the case. Austin Matthews is pretty happy that goal counted. He was on the bench with his head down praying that it was going to count. So
I was surprised that it counted.
I've seen Toronto goals called back that should have been goals. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm not that upset with this one. I feel like they got a bit of karma back in a positive way.
Could be.
Everything, sometimes you get bad calls in games, and then in other games you get all the calls, kind of like one of those things. So although I disagree with the call, I don't feel bad for Boston, because I think Toronto kind of deserved it in a little way.
Well, luckily, and someone said this after the game was over, there were 2 other goals scored in that game. Boston got another one, Toronto got another one. So it sort of sanded off that glaring controversy a little bit.
Yes.
Because there was other scoring that finally took hold. Although that still would have been the difference in the game, that controversial goal. But I remember asking you afterwards, because I don't watch Twitter as closely as you do, but sometimes the referees will even announce to the fans when they're making a call that Toronto is on the phone, or that Toronto is called, and I saw one, I think it was a year or 2 ago, where the referee says, based on the conversation with Toronto,
yes,
the call is overturned, the call on the ice is overturned, and we have a goal, or whatever it was.
So the ref didn't agree with it.
Yeah, clearly in that instance did not agree with it. So I was wondering, you got the fan base sitting there in the Garden, and you've got 18,000 people, probably 17,000 of whom are wearing the black, the gold and black, and they see this game hanging in the balance, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are the opponent, and the referees are on the phone with Toronto. I know it's not rigged that way. It's not like all the people in the war room in Toronto are Maple Leafs fans.
Yeah, they're not. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. But there's an old saying: justice must not only be done; it must be seen to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't know if Toronto's a good place to have that war room in a game like that. But it didn't become an issue.
Where would you have it?
I'd have it in a place that doesn't have an NHL city.
Like Kansas City, or...
Yeah. Based on the war room in Kansas City. No, that's obviously stupid, but it's got to be somewhere. But it's odd that the NHL headquarters office is in New York.
I agree with that.
But the operation stuff is in Toronto. What's going on there?
I think because most of the hockey media is in Toronto.
It could be, but maybe it should be where NHL head offices are located in New York. Then at least you could blame them as being fans for one of 3 different teams.
I guess. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with it being in Toronto. I don't think that there's ever been any bias or...
I don't think so either.
There's
been stupidity. There's been inconsistency.
Yes.
Well, what has to happen, and someone raised this probably a couple of years ago when this was last a thing, the person who's making the decisions at the beginning of the playoffs has to be the person who makes those same decisions for every single game all the way through.
I agree.
They can't have different shifts, because when they do, they have different ways of interpreting it. And you can have the exact same play called 2 different ways by 2 different officials who you never know who they are.
Yep, I agree.
And I don't know if that's really fair.
And I still, not to toot my own horn, but I think it's one of the best ideas I've ever had, and I've had a lot of terrible ideas, but this one's a good one, and I'm sticking with it. They should have a 5th official in between the benches, or not, in between the penalty boxes, where the timekeeper is and stuff, surrounded by 84 screens or whatever he needs to see, and he should have authority to make the call based on what he sees. Don't give the little iPad to the on ice officials, so they can look at their little screens or whatever. Have this guy, who is an actual official, like this is an official that actually referees games as well. Mm-hmm. Like on Thursday night, he's in Colorado reffing a game on the ice, and on Friday, he's in Columbus in between the bench looking at screens. That needs to happen.
Do it.
I'll try.
NHL Board of Governors, care of.
And how difficult would that be? I don't think it would be that difficult.
No, it wouldn't be. They'd have to amend the rule book a bit. And whenever they amend the rule book, they usually get the NHLPA involved. I don't know why, but they seem to. The NHLPA seems to have a lot of say over the league rules. Mm-hmm. But sure, go ahead and do that. I think the players would want more fairness, too. The coaches certainly would. I think they would go for that.
And I think it would add a different perspective to the officials as well. Like, it was mandatory that they had to referee on ice and off ice for games. Like, having them sit there off ice and actually be able to watch the game from a static angle and see maybe something that the on-ice official didn't see, and they get to see all the screens and everything. Like, I think that's really beneficial to their on-ice officiating once they get back on the ice the next time.
It could be. However, I'd like you to deal with a question I have about that, because Ron McLean, I think, has raised it a couple of times. If the on-ice officials know that there's a backstop, that there's somebody with all those screens that will get it right, for sure, there's less of an obligation for them to get it right on the ice.
Well,
and they'll defer. They'll not make a call, or they'll make a cheesy call, knowing that it doesn't matter because it's going to get fixed. What do you think about how that might diminish the authority or the accuracy of on-ice officiating?
I disagree with that. Why would an on-ice official be less accurate or less caring when they could look embarrassed if they get it wrong? If anything, they're going to want to try harder, I think, so that they are proved right by the video and by this fifth official.
And that is a fair response.
Thank you.
Well done. But I think it's a question that had to be asked.
No,
Ron keeps asking.
No, it's a good question. It is a good question.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that you have the fail-safe there is important. I think...
in this day and age, when we have so much technology and we have the technical capability of getting these things exactly right, and whether that means a chip inside the puck to see if it went across the goal line or not, or things like that are still in development, if we have that technology, why in heck are we not using it?
Yes.
Why do we have a human being who's automatically flawed from the time they're born? Mm-hmm. In baseball, we've seen this now all the time, that I wouldn't want to be an umpire in baseball calling balls and strikes when I know that all the viewers at home have this imaginary box in front of them
exactly.
that they can see if I'm right or wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I am gratified by when I do watch the oddball game with that visual feature, the umpires usually get it right.
They do. It's impressive.
They do an amazing job considering how the catcher can cheat a little bit and all that. Yeah. But still, I wouldn't want... It's bad enough to have 70,000 people in the stands second-guessing every pitch and second-guessing my call. Then you've got 6 or 10 million people at home doing it too, and TV evidence to back them up. I wouldn't want that.
And I wouldn't want to be an NHL official either. I mean, it's the fastest game in the world,
yep.
other than racing. But it's amazing how accurate NHL officials are. Mm-hmm. I'd say they're right about 95% of the time, and that 5% is usually to do with penalties, getting them wrong. But as far as calling the goal correctly on the ice when that happens, they're pretty dang accurate. I mean, it's impressive. This, like, even offsides. Like, we'll see an offside get called, and we're like, there's no way that's offside. That's not offside. We rewind. We watch it again, and it's offside.
It was offside. Talk about a letdown. But it does. You're correct. It confirms that for the basic yes and no calls, the officials do an amazing job. They're very good at it. These guys are professionals. They're making six-figure incomes probably, and they don't get there if they're visually impaired.
Exactly.
So good for them. And even as I said, I think last week's podcast, where after Brindamore got all heated up with the officiating in the game last weekend, even he admitted that the referees have a very gigantic task in front of them, and it's remarkable, and that there are people out there to do that. And he had to watch a replay many times himself before he could decide whether he would have called it.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, good for them. But again, we have the technology. Let's use it to help humans and help inject more fairness into a game that is usually very fair to start with. The one thing it will do, though, because right now referees have an out. If they make a call, a penalty call, and they realize on reflection, too late, that the player high-sticked himself, or it was a teammate's stick and not an opposing player's stick, they have a way of evening that out. They have a way of delivering a little karma on the ice by being a little extra careful about making sure the other team doesn't get away with anything.
And we see that often, actually.
And that's a way that officials can help to manage the game and still have it come out at the end of 60 minutes as a more or less fair game. You might remove a bit of that ability if you...
Well, I think that's fine. If he calls the penalty for high sticking, and if it's not an actual high stick, if it was his own stick that hits him in the face or whatever, and he sees that on the replay or whatever, he should have the ability to say no penalty.
If the replays include that function, I think
they should. That fifth official should look at that.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Because then there's no trying to make up a penalty. Because there was a game, was it last weekend or a couple of days? I don't remember, but there was a penalty late in the game, I think against Washington or Carolina, and they said, oh no, it was San Jose and Vegas, I think. And the commentators in between periods said, this team is going to get a power play at the beginning of this game because they're owed one. And they did. They got the first power play in that period.
There you go.
It happens. So I think that fifth official, with all the technology, should be the heavy hand decision maker on goals, on penalties, on everything. Because he has access. He would hypothetically have access to what is needed.
Mm-hmm. Because
on that goaltender interference call in the Toronto-Boston game the other day, did the referees on the ice make the decision with the little iPads and stuff, or did Toronto make the decision? Does Toronto have the ultimate say all the time?
Well,
to me, it seems like they do, because in your scenario that you said earlier, which I remember seeing, Toronto has determined that.
I think it depends on the circumstance and the kind of call it is. If it's a judgment call made by the ref, excuse me, as to a player's intent or something like that, and he's seeing it on the ice, Toronto has, I think, a tough road to hoe to try to interfere with that. But if it's a straight question, did the puck cross the line or not, and the referee called no goal, waved it off, and Toronto clearly sees that the puck did get across, then they still have the conversation, because the referee might say, well, I hadn't quite got the air out of my mouth when I was blowing the whistle, but I was blowing that play dead. Or, in my view, the net was unsafe or whatever. There's things in a referee's head when he's blowing the whistle that Toronto can't know. So there's still a conversation. But if it's a straight, did the puck go across, yes or no, or even the offside, notice when it's an offside question, it's the two linesmen that go up and look at the little iPad, not the refs. And then the linesmen go to the ref and say what they determined, and then the ref makes the announcement. So I don't think it's always Toronto. One of the commentators, I don't know if it was Doug McLean or somebody, a few days ago, explained what really happens on these phone calls to Toronto. And Toronto really, does not want to overrule the call on the ice. There's a bias against doing that if they can avoid it. Only will they overrule if it's an absolute must-see, because everyone already knows it, except the two guys in the stripes. So I don't think it's always a straight Toronto call, but sometimes if it's a quick binary decision, yes, it would be.
Because I've seen them look at their little iPads and stuff and not have a headset on, and then the referees just talk back and forth without that call. So it's interesting to know that sometimes Toronto's involved and sometimes they're not. And I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. It's just interesting. Anyways.
Just back to the Leafs, before we leave Leafs and Bruins, because I know the game's coming up actually within minutes of us filming this, and you need some time to compile the podcast and upload it. So by the time it hits online, the game will be either underway or perhaps even over.
It'll be over.
So, pardon me. I have to say, and I've not been overly complimentary of the Toronto media generally, but on Wednesday night, I was over to New Brunswick across the Northumberland Strait for a family event, and it was gone all day, but I was coming back in the evening, and it was around 8:30 in the evening, and I was almost home, but I wasn't going to get home in time to see the beginning of the game. So using my mobile phone, I found the game broadcast on a mobile app on my Android, fed that through Bluetooth into my car radio, and I listened as if I was driving downtown in Toronto on AM 680 or 680 News. And what are you laughing at? What are you smiling?
You said on my Android. That's such an old person thing to say. Continue.
Maybe I shouldn't.
Just had to burn you.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a little odd in here. Anyway, I heard Joe Bowen was doing the broadcast. He's the Leafs.
He's the Mackinac guy.
He's the holy Mackinac guy. And aren't too many phrases in professional sports that I hate more than holy Mackinac.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't stand it. It's so...
I agree.
Oh, it's just awful. However, that said, during the time I was listening to that broadcast, maybe most of the first period actually, he never said it once. Frankly, Toronto didn't give him reason to say it, for one thing. But I was just able to sit back and enjoy the play-by-play. He's very good.
Oh, he is, yeah.
He's a very good broadcaster. He gives a really nice mental picture of what's going on in the ice, because I'm bombing across the Confederation Bridge, and one ear is on one eye is on the bridge, and the other is on... Anyway, You know what I mean. And he was able to paint a picture in my head of what was going on in the game very well. And the color guy was pretty good, too. I forget his name. But Joe Bowen is really good.
There are some really, really good radio commentators. John Bartlett used to do the play-by-play for CJAD, I think, in Montreal.
Yeah.
And he was so good that he was hired by Sportsnet to do the commentary during CBC games or Sportsnet games.
Sportsnet games, Montreal games. And
now he's
doing Toronto local games.
Yes, he's doing Toronto stuff now.
Yeah, but of course in the playoffs, I think they've got him deployed out somewhere else. But he's the Toronto regional broadcast guy, and he's very good.
And he's not the first example of someone coming from radio to video. So it's there are definitely there's definitely a lot of talent on the radio side of things.
There is. Some of us that were on the radio in the past, we just could not make the transition to video due to facial problems.
Was that your problem?
Yeah, that was my problem. It was a facial problem. I had a face for radio too, so that was the end of that.
I understand.
The other thing I mentioned to you just last night when we were talking, Joe Bowen rolls the R in Rask when he says Tuukka Rask's name.
Tuukka Rask.
Rask. And good for him, because we know how important it is to try to pronounce people's names right, and although we often don't succeed, we try to, especially for Finnish names. We talk about Armia, for instance, instead of Armia.
Yeah, Sportsnet, when they're calling his name, they say Joel, which is right, and they say Armia.
Yeah.
If you're going to pronounce the first name right, then at least pronounce the last name right and say Armia. Anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to do. But to his credit, Joe Bowen says Rask. And good for him. And he did a good job, and I don't think I've said anything horribly bad about him other than the Holy Mackinac thing, so I don't think I have to walk back.
And now it's in a
remarks.
commercial.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, it's in that Austin Matthews.
Oh, man.
There's parents on a step, and there's kids playing ball hockey, but it's being commentated by a little girl on the step and also a dubbed over of him calling an actual game or something like that. And then it transitions to Austin Matthews scoring a goal, and he says Holy Mackinac, and the little girl says Holy Mackinac on the step, and it's just...
Oh, that's painful.
Yeah, it is. I don't like that saying, so I'm with you there.
Yeah.
We don't agree on everything, but we agree on that.
There we go. Yeah.
Anything else to say in that series?
On that series, no.
All right, Washington, Carolina. Washington leads 3-2. Their win yesterday, pretty big win. I actually didn't watch the majority of that game. That was the first playoff game that I did not watch the majority of. I didn't even watch a single second of the third period. I just, for whatever reason, I don't know, I just wasn't interested in it. I don't know if it was because it was such a blowout and Washington was just so dominant in the game that it just wasn't interesting to me. But yeah, I don't know. I did other things.
I watched quite a bit of it in the background while I had the laptop doing research for this and cruising around, and I had one eye on that. But it was not a very watchable game. It was very boring, I thought. When games are lopsided like that, they're just, well, they're not fun to watch.
It depends if it's an underdog.
Yeah.
Up on a big team. It's a little different, I think, when Washington is that dominant over Carolina, because that's almost what you expect. No offense to Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So Game 6 is Monday in Carolina. The home team has won every single game in this series. So logic dictates that Carolina should win this game.
Mm-hmm. And teams being thrumped. I was trying to say thumped and drubbed at the same time, so I got thrumped.
You said trumped.
I almost said that. Oh, God. Anyway, teams that are getting whacked badly usually come back with a very good effort the following game. So I expect Carolina will show up.
I agree. I think Carolina's going to win this game. I think this is going 7. I do ultimately believe that Washington will win this series, though. Mm-hmm. What did you think about the Oshie thing that hit? The push.
The push.
Do you remember the play?
Oh, I do. If you just look at the contact, player-to-player contact, still 5 feet from the boards, it to me looked pretty non-issue-y. But on one of the replays, you see that Oshie is not fully on his feet. That doesn't have really good stance or balance, and he's in that situation more prone to getting shot into the boards. But I don't know if the player hitting him has time to make that decision.
I agree. I don't think that it wasn't even a hit. It was more of like a cross-check push kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it was malicious. Probably deserving of a penalty just because of where that push happened on the ice and how close or how the distance from the boards. So I agree with the penalty, and I'm glad that a penalty was called. But I think the NHL made the right decision in not adding any disciplinary
completely agree
action on that player.
Yeah.
I think Oshie, for the most part, or that injury happened mostly because Oshie lost his footing, and I think it was just bad luck based on the distance he was from the boards. If he had been 2 feet closer to the boards, I think it would have been better because I think he would have landed more upright and maybe hit his face on the glass or something versus his shoulder taking all of the impact and his whole body collapsing onto his shoulder. I don't know if they've announced his injury or not.
I was just about to ask you that because when it first happened, I thought we're looking at a fractured collarbone or something, a clavicle. But he was able to move his arm a little when he was skating back to go down the tunnel.
I don't know. I think it might be the collarbone.
Yeah.
I thought it was a separated shoulder at first, but I mean, you can come back and play after.
Usually you can, because when the shoulder separates, the acromion and the clavicle come apart right up here. Well, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
I thought you didn't have a face for TV.
Yeah, well, I can play a doctor because I've always got my surgical mask on.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. But a separated shoulder it's more of a long-term problem, and it takes a while to heal, but you're probably still functional. It's just pains a lot. A dislocated shoulder, you're basically useless until they get it put back in. And then once they put it back in, you're probably fine.
You're good to go, yeah.
Although, once you've dislocated it once, it becomes prone to further dislocations. So, sometimes people learn how to put it back in themselves. They just roll around on the floor and do something and pop.
Yeah.
Back.
It's a daily thing almost.
Yeah.
Could be a rib as well.
It could be.
We don't know. And maybe they've announced it. I just haven't looked, to be honest. But he sent out a very nice tweet to the Capitals fans, telling them to be loud and stuff. And the Capitals fans in that game actually did some chants for him specifically. And then he thanked them on Twitter afterwards. So it's pretty cool to see. Good on the Washington Capitals fans. And
cool. Yeah. Just checking with TSN, and Washington Capitals forward TJ Oshie underwent surgery on his fractured right clavicle, and it's expected to be out indefinitely.
Huh.
So it is a broken collarbone.
Broken collarbone, yeah.
Yeah. And it had that look. But usually a broken collarbone, if it's close enough towards your sternum, towards your neck, there's really no surgery required. You just get a sling, and you just let it sit there until it knits and heals on its own. But in his case, maybe it was farther out, more close to the mobility side, and maybe they just had to put some pins and screws and plates and stuff in there. You know what that's like, though.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so.
Also, we should probably mention the Pierre Maguire comment that he made during Game 4, I think it was.
I almost saved the entire game just so I could find it again, record it on my phone, and play it into the microphone here today, but then I erased it and forgot to do that. But it was just terrible.
Basically, he said that the Carolina Sticks are very aware, as in they have consciousness.
They're woke.
The Carolina Sticks are woke.
Now, this is the same guy who brought us Active Sticks.
Yeah.
Now, you watch a hockey game, and of all the sticks that are out on the ice, and there's going to be 12 of them out there, find me one stick that's not active basically all the time. But the only inactive stick in a hockey game is on the rack behind the player's bench. That's an inactive stick, but only for now. It's going to be active very shortly.
It's going to be activated.
It's going to be activated. And he talked about active sticks. And then we were watching a game a couple of years back, and he started talking about active feet.
Active feet.
Now, this is a hockey game, as Neil said a minute ago, the fastest game in the world, where players can get up to 40 and 45 kilometers an hour, almost 30 miles an hour, screaming down the ice. Yes, it's a game where every frigging person on that ice has active feet.
Exactly.
The only time there wasn't active feet in the game we saw last night was that stupid standoff across the net where the guy was waiting for the...
Pietrangelo.
Yeah, but it was a great play.
It was.
But he stood there for, must have been 15 seconds. So his feet were not active at that time.
So we've gone from active stick to active feet.
And now...
Now we have consciousness and sticks. They are aware.
The sticks are aware.
The sticks are aware. The Carolina, and specifically just the Carolina sticks.
The Carolina sticks are aware. I don't know what was wrong with the Washington sticks.
I don't
They're
know.
just dumb sticks.
Yeah.
But the Carolina sticks were very aware. They were woke to what was going on.
They know what's up.
They know what's up. Now, they weren't very aware yesterday.
They were not. No.
But the game before, they were very aware. So while we're on this commentator stupidity, one of the things that's driving me more and more crazy as time goes on, and I get less tolerant of crazy, is talking about the hockey puck in the plural form. Now, any game I've ever watched, unless there's been some tomfoolery going on, there's only one puck on the ice at any one time. And all the game is focused on the location and direction of travel of that little rubber thing, the puck, singular.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you talk to a player in an interview, or when the announcers start talking or the coaches start talking, we have to get pucks on the net, and we have to get pucks deep, and we need better handling of the pucks. And it's like, are there invisible pucks that I'm not seeing here? Because it's just another stupid thing that's crept into people's brains.
Yeah.
And they don't even know they're saying it. They're talking. There's never more than one puck.
You need the Fox
puck tracker.
Puck tracker, yeah. The puck streaker thing.
It would look like a fireworks display. There'd be pucks everywhere. Yeah. Like, it just drives me crazy.
It's funny you bring that up, though, because Mulligan on Discord brought that up about players, and some commentators will say, they'll be talking about the game, and they'll be like, the Gretzkys and the Bens and the Bishops, and like they'll put an S on the end of names, as if there's more than one Ben, or actually there is more than one Ben.
Well, there is, yeah.
You know what I mean.
And there's more than one Gretzky.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, really. The
Crosbys of the game.
The Crosbys and the Beliveaux.
There's only one Crosby.
But I don't know. I think what's happening, and what's probably happened forever, but there's just more media. I think sportscasters watch each other too much.
I agree.
And they get bad habits.
Yep. Because now everyone says half boards. And we don't have to talk about that anymore. It's just a term that's crept up in the last 10 years, and now everyone says it.
Yeah.
Or the half wall.
The half wall. Yeah. And
there's all kinds of them. Anyways.
Yeah.
Sad. Calgary, Colorado. That series is over. We've made a recap video. We just filmed that like yesterday, I think, so I don't have anything new to say on that specific series.
No.
I thought Smith was good.
I thought he was all right.
I mean, looking at the series, I would say, and looking at Calgary specifically, and I'm thinking there's two players that I can see not showing up for this series. One is James Neal, and one is Mike Smith. If they lose the series, it's probably because of one of those two. That's not the case. Mike Smith is one of the only Calgary Flames to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Go on NHL stats and look at how many shots that he's faced in those 5 games, and compare it to some of these other series that are now at 6 games, going into 7 games. Some of these goalies, the shot total, the shots that Smith has faced is, I think, close to 200 or more at this point.
Wow!
And it's like, holy crap! I mean, he let in some soft goals. I'm not saying that he didn't, but I'm just saying he didn't get much help.
Yeah.
So right. I wouldn't blame Smith for this loss, and I said that in the video. But
I noticed for the first time, because I'm rarely watching Calgary, so I don't know if this is the song they always play at the beginning of the game when they're getting ready for the opening face-off. But 1 or 2 games ago, it was a home game, Calgary home game, so maybe 3 or 4 days ago, they were playing Hell's Bells by AC/DC, and it was amazing. Like, and we've had the conversation. There are songs that they play in NHL arenas that I just can't stand.
You'd hate Ozzy Osbourne.
I hate Crazy Train in particular, but Ozzy Osbourne generally. His voice is too high. The music they play, it may be interesting to listen to when you're blasting down the highway, or you're sitting on the beach, or you're having some
Ozzy at the beach,
having some pops with your homies or whatever. But in an arena, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the fans in it. You're trying to get them clapping their hands. So that's why Salt and Peppa and Insane and the Membrane and all this stuff, it's way better to get the fans energized. When you're just blasting crap at them.
So you do or don't like Hell's Bells?
I love it.
But that doesn't get the crowd into it. That's not one of these songs.
It's got that, like the fans can...
And
I'm doing it poorly here.
You're speaking from experience because you used to actually do this in hockey games and be the music guy. Do you remember playing Crazy Train?
No.
I do.
You remember me playing Crazy Train?
Yeah. And I remember me...
I want video proof.
I remember me forcing you to play our intro. So like I chose the music, and it's not music you liked. It was, I think, Seek and Destroy by Metallica or something like that, which is actually a pretty good intro song. But anyway.
Well, when I played music, I wanted to play the odd thing that nobody ever heard of, and I did that. And I'm sure that people looked at me and went, "What is that crap that he's playing?" I did some stuff by Arrested Development.
I don't even... Like the show?
No, the group. Tennessee.
Never heard of it.
No, I didn't play Tennessee, but I played a few things. Inflatable People.
Never heard of it.
Inflatable People is one of the fantastic songs you can play in a hockey rink.
Do they sing it to the tone of Beautiful People by... what's his face?
No.
Some Manson, whatever his name is.
I have no idea. Charles Manson?
No, not Charles.
I don't know.
It's the creepy dude. He paints his skin white and he's got long black hair and he's...
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. No, I don't know.
That's a great song.
Is it?
You've never heard Beautiful People?
No. Well, if I have, I haven't paid attention.
Oh, man.
But I beg you, all the listeners, just find Inflatable People by Arrested Development.
Okay.
And just picture all the players skating out onto the ice.
I'm writing this down.
You write that down. And I've actually played this. You've heard me play it at hockey games, although I probably didn't know what it was. And as you skate out, it starts off with just a lot of horns and brass, and then it gets this beat that gets going, and it's fantastic.
Okay.
All right.
You know a song that I'd like to see more in hockey games?
What's that?
Spirit in the Sky.
Green Bomb's version?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Because that song's freaking amazing.
Well, it's an amazing song. I like the song, but I'm trying to picture it in a hockey arena. I'm having trouble.
I don't care. It doesn't have to be hockey specific. I just want to hear it loud and in an arena. It's a good song. 1969, I think.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's about that time. Late 60s. Anything by AC/DC is great.
I disagree. I don't like AC/DC. Overplayed. Does not excite me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love Led Zeppelin, but I don't like the Immigrant Song in a hockey game.
I do.
Clearly, you're wrong on so many things today.
Oh, dang.
Boom.
All right. I don't have anything else to say for that series, to be honest.
No, I don't either.
We just talked about it, so.
We did. It was an underwhelming series overall. I'm just so crazily impressed with McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, that whole big line, and the new kid, Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, heck yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do.
I agree. I'm worried that he won't be there for the whole run, though. Not that he doesn't deserve to be, but I'm worried that he's going to get in trouble. He's going to do something irresponsible, and he's not an irresponsible player. He's proved that he's not, but things can happen, and things can be blamed on him. If he makes a mistake, it's going to be, it's because he's inexperienced. Whereas a veteran, if he makes a mistake, it's he made a mistake. And I'm worried that label on him may limit his ice time in the future if he does make a mistake or makes him a healthy scratch.
Did you see the discussion that Ron McLean contributed to on Grubauer during that goalie interference review?
Negative.
Ron made the case for Grubauer taking a dive. And once he said it, and they showed the replay a couple of times, I think I'm there.
I don't remember the play.
I think I'm there. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it was one where he overreacted, and I'm trying to remember the exact player, who the player was. But they showed a few replays of it from different angles, and it certainly looked to me, once I was done in my own brain analyzing it, because I usually don't agree with what Ron says, so I'm usually I'm at the opposite position at the beginning of anything Ron says, but he had me won over, because Grubauer reacted physically in a way that was excessive compared to what the contact would have been.
I'll have to go rewatch the play. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of goaltender stuff, the St. Louis Winnipeg game, or series, I mean, it's over now.
Yeah.
We have the video recap coming soon, probably tomorrow or the next day, likely tomorrow. Goaltender questionable calls, I think 2 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
The first game we had Bufflin drove Sundqvist into the net, I believe, and the net went off the moorings, but they scored a goal at the same time, and it counted, and it took like 5 or 6 minutes for them to make the decision.
Yeah.
That was a interesting situation. You don't often see that, had that specific net coming off when the puck goes over.
I think it's a fairly new thing, too, where they're saying, hey, even if the net's physically not there anymore, if the net was there and the puck crossing at that time, all other things being okay, we're going to count it now.
If the net is removed by the defensive player,
right,
that's a pretty big factor. And they determined that even though physically it was taken off the net by the offensive player, it happened because the defensive player forced the offensive player into the net. Mm-hmm. I agree with the call. I agree that it should have been a good goal, and I'm glad that it was called a good goal.
Yeah, I like the call too.
And that's not a biased opinion because I was cheering for St. Louis. I just think it was the right call. Mm-hmm. In their most recent game, we saw Dustin Bufflin back up into his own goalie like 17 seconds into the game or whatever the hell it was. And Jaden Schwartz got that goal, I believe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of the first of his hat trick goals.
Set the tone for the game.
Really did.
But there was a goaltender interference challenge by Paul Maurice.
Right.
And I agree with the call that it was a good goal because it was Bufflin that really gave him the majority of the contact there. Mm-hmm. And it was his own fault. And I don't think, even though Hellebuck did get a little bit of a touch from, I can't remember who the other player was, it wasn't enough to take him off his position on the opposite side because the contact that happened was on the opposite side, but the puck was on the other side.
Right.
That doesn't really make sense, but you understand.
I do. Hopefully they do.
Hopefully they've seen the play. If you didn't see the play, then you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I think it was the right call. Again, unfortunately for Winnipeg's sake, and then they ended up wasting that challenge, and they don't have a timeout. So there was another potential goaltender interference play or goal later in the game. I think it was in the second period, but Winnipeg couldn't challenge it.
They couldn't. What would you think about this? If you're Paul Maurice and you make a challenge 20 seconds into the game, and the challenge goes against you, right now you automatically lose your timeout, and you can't challenge anything else in the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. In exchange for a 2-minute penalty on you, would you take that deal?
So the coach has the decision to forfeit his timeout and future challenges for a penalty.
Right.
I agree. I like that decision. I would probably choose the penalty.
I would choose the penalty because then if there's a penalty or some kind of penalty involved. Right now the penalty is the loss of your timeout and the inability to make further challenges. So that is a penalty of a kind. But if you can choose and exchange that penalty for the other penalty, then you preserve your right because you can probably rationalize in your head that there's a way to kill this 2-minute penalty off.
But it's also a risky play because if you choose the penalty, Like, if the call goes back on you, then obviously you have the decision.
And you're 2 goals down.
And then if you choose the penalty, and then they score again on the power play, then you're really going to look like an idiot because you just gave up 2 goals.
Because later on, that other interference one, it was blatant goaltender interference that time. If you look straight down, where Maroon has Hellebuck's glove basically held onto for 3 or 4 seconds.
I think they would have a case for goaltender interference there.
I think they would.
Not based on the Toronto-Boston game, but based on everything else we've seen this year.
So, and that was when the game was close. I think that was the second goal.
It was the second goal.
Schwartz's second goal.
In the second period.
And had that been overturned, it still would have been just a 1-0 game, and Winnipeg would have had some mo. But as it turned out, they couldn't challenge that one. Now it's 2-0, and the air starts to come out of things, right?
3-0.
Da-da-da.
But believe it or not, Winnipeg almost came back in that game late.
They scored 2 goals in the last few minutes.
They had to kill off a 4-minute penalty with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, so they were going to be a man short the rest of the game.
Yeah.
They pulled their goalie to make it even, scored a goal, and almost scored another one to tie the game. Super impressive.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Did a great job. But Maurice's hands were tied. He had to make that decision, and he knew the consequences of making that early challenge.
Yeah.
And he thought it was a good gamble to make, and I can't second-guess that. He's a way better coach than I would ever hope to be. So I would say, okay, just sometimes things don't go your way, and that's the end of that. Because he's an incredible coach, and it was a very strategic decision. If he had got that goal overturned at that time, it would have been an entirely different game too, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's that early in the game, you can't almost you almost can't hold on to that challenge. You kind of have to use it because it's so early. You can't afford to lose the momentum. So I can see both sides of using that challenge that early. We'll save our rest of the conversation for that series in our recap video coming soon. Nashville, Dallas. Dallas is up 3-2 with a pretty impressive win yesterday against Nashville. Game 6 is tomorrow, Monday. The Ben Sagan Radulov line they're calling it now the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, really.
And I mean, why wouldn't you? If you watched the game yesterday and got to see them play, it was a thing of beauty.
Fantastic.
It was amazing.
Fantastic. The passing plays, 1, 2, 3, just tic-tac-toe, and sometimes a fourth guy in on that too. This is incredible.
Yeah, the confidence. And Dallas is getting secondary scoring as well.
Yeah. Something
that they were going to need to win the series, and they're getting it. So it's pretty cool seeing some players in this lineup that you don't like, names that you don't really hear of, like that Rope Hins guy. What a freaking pro name that is. And Dickinson. And
Dickinson, he was incredible.
Yeah, like there's a lot of players on Dallas that are really contributing, and that's pretty great to see. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and Zuccarello's back, and I noticed in the game he's more physical now too. I think maybe the first few games back after the arm break, just after the trading deadline, might have been protecting things a little bit, but he's banging around. So
did he break his arm?
Yeah, just after.
I don't remember the injury. Like I remember watching it and seeing it, but I don't remember following the follow up.
It turned out being one of the bones in I think his lower arm was broken. Yeah, so he was out for whatever it was, 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about that series because I mean it's going back to Dallas, so they have a potential to close it out at home. But I don't want to give my final recap on the series quite yet because I honestly think Nashville's going to win that game and force Game 7. So
I want to see who's going to be revving up the crowd in Game 7 if they bring it back. Yesterday was Darryl Waltrip.
They watch him, boogity.
And of course, NBC didn't hit the coverage right on time, so we don't know if he said anything.
Yeah.
He did have a microphone. I'd be surprised if he didn't say boogity, boogity, boogity.
Exactly.
But we didn't hear it.
Who do you start in net for Nashville?
Man, that was a rough game. I think I'd go back with Rene.
I would too.
Rene.
Pekarene.
I think I'd go back with him because, like a lot of goalies do, after a bit of a thumping, they drill in a little deeper and find some stuff. So, yeah, I'd go back with him. Although Saros has earned a chance, but
Rene's so inconsistent.
Yeah,
and they just keep going back to him years after years in the playoffs. And
yeah,
I don't know, like that Dickinson goal, that slap shot with no screen.
Yeah, that was
a bad giveaway by Nashville. I know that,
weak.
But still, that's a save. You got to make that save.
Yeah. So I'd put Rene back in, but I'd tell Saros, don't go too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't go down the tunnel.
Don't go down the tunnel. Yeah.
Pee before the game starts.
The Vegas-San Jose series. Vegas leads 3-2 in that series. Game 6 is tonight.
Oh, at a decent hour, too.
At a decent hour. I think it's 8 p.m. our time,
Wow.
7 p.m. Eastern. This is going to be a very, very tough game for San Jose, not only because it's a must-win game, but because they're playing in Vegas, and that arena is very hard to win in as an opposing team, and the crowd is just electric. It's an amazing experience. I'm so happy that I can say that I did experience it last year in the playoffs, and I know what the San Jose Sharks are in for, and they know too. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but you know if Vegas plays the same way that they played the last game, this is going 7 and back to San Jose. I still don't think San Jose is going to win. I fully predict Vegas to win this game tonight, and I really do believe that they will win.
The odds makers are picking Vegas today.
I'm so certain that Vegas is going to win this game that I'd almost bet money on it. But San Jose is so inconsistent, it drives me crazy. Like when they're bad, they're so bad, but when they're good, they're so good. And you don't know what San Jose Sharks team you're going to get, and that's the frustrating part. Like San Jose could walk in here and win 6-0, and it wouldn't surprise me that they won 6-0, but they could also lose 6-0, and that wouldn't surprise me either. So, Erik Karlsson, you need to leave the San Jose Sharks. Get off my second favorite team.
That was he's had a rough go, and he contributes offensively so well. So despite all of his defensive liabilities, and they are significant, he's only a minus a few.
Don't care. Off my team. It's egregious what he's doing to the San Jose Sharks.
It is terrible. Do you think he's hurt, maybe?
No.
You just think he's...
No, I just think he shouldn't be a defenseman. He should be a forward. He's not. He can't play defense.
Why is he a defenseman then?
I don't know.
I know back in the day, minor hockey day, the defenseman was the kid who could skate backwards. Basically, that's where you started. Oh, he can skate backwards good. We'll make him a defenseman. That's really where it starts. I don't know. Maybe he's been stuck in that rut.
I don't think so. It's a good thing you're not a scout.
It's a very good thing I'm not a scout.
No, I don't. I don't know what's going on, but anyway. Do you think Vegas is going to win? What's your prediction?
I do. I think Vegas is going to win. I think it's going to be decisive.
I think so too.
I think that the crowd will be that seventh man.
Yeah.
And
Fleury will be good.
Fleury will stand on his head. He'll have to make some big saves. He'll have to make some dandies. But I think San Jose is vulnerable here. They're on the road, even though they're the dominant team in the standings and all that. They're on the road, and they're on their knees right now, having lost that third loss, and now they're facing elimination. They'll be tough to play against, but they're going to lose. I'm
surprised that San Jose started Jones in that last game, and he played very well.
He did,
and that was totally took me off guard. And yeah. I feel like I owed Jones an apology because I've been super critical of him in this series, but I likely won't owe him an apology after tonight because I think he's going to show his true colors again. I hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's one thing where you can make a prediction, but that actually goes against the team you're cheering for, and then you're happy either way. Either you're a hockey genius or your team wins.
Don't get me wrong. I'm cheering for San Jose in this game tonight. I hope they win, and the series. No offense, Vegas, but yeah. That's all I have to say for all of the series. Do you have anything else to add?
Not about the series specifically, but I have some just general comments on the broadcasts. But no, I'm good for... Okay. If you have other things you want to talk about.
I just want to get through some stuff real quick.
Yeah.
And then we can jump to what you have.
Do it.
A lot of people have been commenting and saying that they like the thumbnails and the recent videos. I really appreciate that. I've been putting a lot of time and effort into the past 3 elimination thumbnails. Not so much in the Tampa Bay one, but the Pittsburgh one I put in a lot of time in and try to think of what kind of clever thing I could do. And the Islanders mascot is a dragon, so I thought I'd find a picture of Barzal with his mouth open and then have fire coming out of it.
And with Game of Thrones starting back up last Sunday,
there you go.
You get a lot of dragon love.
Hashtag dragon love. Yeah, so I had fun with that one, and people seemed to like it. And then I did the Colorado Calgary one, where the Colorado was kind of dousing the flames and stuff, and people seemed to like that as well. So I appreciate that. And I got another one coming out. You guys,
it's gorgeous.
Haven't seen it yet.
It's a beauty.
St. Louis Blues and eliminates Winnipeg Jets thumbnail. You'll see that tomorrow probably, but it's already made, And Chris let me use his photo. Chris has a specific photo that he has a jet and some fire in the background, and was nice enough to allow me to use that. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. I'll be giving him a shout out in the video as well. But yeah, it's a lot of fun making these thumbnails. I like to put the extra effort into big videos and important videos, and people really like it. So I appreciate you guys with the positive feedback, and yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. Good for you. Well done.
Do you know why I'm wearing this jersey and this hat?
Steve Yzerman.
Yep.
Okay. Good. I didn't know it was going to be that easy.
Yeah, let's move on. No, Yzerman named, I almost said captain, named GM.
He could probably be a good one.
Probably could. Yeah. Named GM of the Red Wings. This is something that we predicted back 6 months ago.
Yeah, he had a premature disconnection from
but
Tampa. We were like, what's going on?
I wasn't trying to talk us up there. Literally everyone else made the same prediction. Everyone knew that he was going back to Detroit. Yeah, I believe his family still lives there.
Yeah, I don't think they ever left.
Part of the reason why he wanted separation from Tampa is because of the traveling back and forth between Detroit and Tampa. So he's home, and this is fantastic news for Detroit. They've got a young team, a young and up and coming team. He'll help get the cap situation sorted out. He'll help bring in some new young talent. This team is going to be the old Detroit in no time. So it's pretty exciting.
It is exciting, and kudos to him as well for, even though he disconnected from the Red Wings, he didn't announce from the Lightning. He didn't announce for anybody else until the Lightning were eliminated.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything that was going to upset any alignment of those planets. So good for him to wait it out.
Much respect.
And good for Detroit too to let him have that chance to wait it out until this shows good respect for their hockey brethren.
Yeah.
So that was nicely done, classy.
And good for him for taking on the challenge of Detroit. It's not going to be an easy job.
No.
They've got obviously some cap issues and stuff. So good on him for looking that challenge in the face and accepting it.
You know where I first learned of this move? Facebook.
Facebook?
Why on Facebook? Because way back in the early 2000s, we're going back to the Olympics, maybe in Salt Lake City.
What year?
Was it 2000 or 2000?
I think it was 2002.
2002, I think you're right. I was still teaching at the time in Fredericton before we ever came over here or even had a thought of it. And one of the students in my class, her name was Tammy, and she was an absolute diehard Yzerman fan. Not so much a Red Wings fan, but it was all about Yzerman. And he was playing for Team Canada at the time and factored into the Olympic effort very well. And Canada won gold that year.
They did? Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah. Remember the Magic Looney or under the ice and all that? Anyway, I'll never forget Tammy's just absolute delight with Stevie Yzerman doing so well. Long after she graduated from where I was teaching, she and her husband moved to London, Ontario. And they have a lovely family, and they still live there. They're both very successful and working. And she's never lost her attachment to Steve Yzerman. And the minute this thing was announced, her Facebook just blew up. Stevie Yzerman going to Detroit. Welcome home, she said. Now, home, I thought, well, that's funny. But really, when you're in southern Ontario, southwestern Ontario in particular, and you're only an hour and a half drive at the most.
She should live in Windsor.
From the Little Caesars Arena, that is a home. And yeah, Windsor's not far away, just down the 4-lane highway, and you're in Windsor.
Yeah, but Windsor's just across. Like Windsor's basically Detroit.
Yeah, but you work where you live where your job is.
I know. Just teasing.
Yeah. You should live in Windsor.
I'd live in Windsor.
Yeah, Windsor's. Actually, that's one place I've never been to. I've never been to Windsor. Never been to Detroit.
I have been in Detroit. Does landing in a plane at the airport count as being in Detroit?
Was it Metro Wayne or was it?
I don't know. It was the big one.
DET or DTW?
Whatever the biggest one was.
I think they both count.
So that counts as being in Detroit?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, then I've been in Detroit.
Good man. Yeah, but anyway, she's over the moon because he's coming back to the Detroit Red Wings, which I think became her team when he was there, and so yeah, Tammy's happy.
Nice.
Good for you, Tammy.
The LA Kings have announced Todd McLellan is their new coach.
The biggest kept secret in hockey.
Yeah. So, pretty big news for LA. I like this move. I really like Todd McLellan in San Jose. was disappointing when he got fired. And then he had some time in Edmonton.
Oh, was he? Was he there?
And he actually took them to the playoffs, which is nice.
Yep.
But his tenure there did not last very long. And now he's in LA. I think this is great news for LA. I really think he fits in well with that group. Interesting to see a coach go to a rival of his previous team. The next thing I want to talk about is the same situation. Alain Vigneault going to Philadelphia from his the Rangers, who was in the same division, in the same basically zone of cities there. I don't think you see that often, but I guess the more I think about it, you do, because Claude Julien went from Boston to Montreal.
But there was a gap.
Yeah.
It wasn't a straight shot. Julien was fired. Then he dangled for a while, and Montreal brought him in.
Yeah, but it wasn't that long.
No, it wasn't long. It was a couple of months, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in Toronto when that was announced. I remember exactly where we were.
Oh, where were we?
I don't know the building, but we were inside the building down in the food court.
Okay.
Sitting.
Basically underneath the Hockey Hall of Fame almost. Right?
Yeah, really close to it. We were sitting at a table, and we were just about to eat.
Harvey's.
Whatever.
Harvey's.
And you went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I'm on my phone. I'm like, holy crap, Montreal Canadiens.
I remember that.
Just signed Claude Julien. And then you came back to the table. I'm like, guess what?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a good day. That's the day we bought the tickets for the game the following night when the Leafs played the Islanders.
Yes, and Leafs won 7-1.
Yeah.
Matthews got 2 goals. Tavares was invisible.
We'll see if that same thing happens today.
Exactly. I think this is good news for both the Kings and Flyers.
Yeah.
Specifically the Flyers, I think they need that big presence coach on that team for a lot of reasons. It's a team that has, I would say, commanding presence in the past 40 years, basically, and I think Vigneault has that mentality and that presence about him as well. So
yeah,
it's good that he shares the same team mantra, I guess. And so I think this is good news for both teams, LA and the Flyers, and I'm excited to see how next season progresses for both of these teams.
Right on. Very good.
The Guelph Storm completed the reverse sweep
with Nick Suzuki.
Heck yeah.
That is his team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now they move on to the next round, which is awesome. Haven't followed it beyond that point, but super happy for the Guelph Storm, which is awesome. So
that's incredible.
that's all I got.
Yeah. That's all you got for
the
the whole show?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to come back to just a couple of my annoyances, the things that are driving me a little crazy. And number one is the word number.
Oh, okay.
Period number 1.
I know what this is about.
And next week it's game number 6 and game number 7. The very fact you're using 6 and 7 already includes the understanding that they are numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to say number 5, number 6, number 7. That would be like me saying to you, first name Neil, or sky color blue, or animal cat, or vehicle car.
Yeah.
Why these commentators have now adopted this number.
It's weird.
Number 1's a little different because number 1 is actually a phrase. You have to look out for number 1. So the word 1 isn't always a number.
Period number 2.
But, yeah.
Period number 3.
But the number 2, number 3, number 4, no. Just say period 1. Period 2.
If you're in the movies.
Game 4.
If you're at a game and you're talking on the phone to someone and they're trying to find you, you're not going to say, I'm in row number 3. You're going to say, I'm in the 3rd row.
3rd row or row 3. You don't need to say number 3. Announcers.
It doesn't annoy me as much as it annoys you, but
Are you getting paid by the word?
I do agree.
In which case, you're rich. That drives me crazy.
What else? What else do you want to rant about?
I want to rant about a couple of things. The stupid sponsorships. Stupid sponsorships. Now, I know what sponsorships are for, and I know how they work, and sponsorships make the world go around. Whether it's SeatGeek or whatever it might be, sponsorships can be a good thing if they add to the content or they help the broadcast in some way. They help enhance the listener or the viewer experience. But when the last 5 minutes of the game are brought to you by a mortgage company, guess what? They're not. they're not brought to me by the mortgage company. They're brought to me by the 10 players, skaters on the ice, and the 2 goalies. That's who's bringing it to me, maybe the network. And just because there's a little panel up in the corner with the mortgage company's name on it, that's actually not enhancing my viewer experience. If anything, it's pissing me off.
But those 5 minutes are made possible by that company.
No, they're not.
Didn't you know that?
No, they're not. If the company's check bounced, is the NHL going to say at the 55-minute mark, sorry, Rocket Mortgage backed out. The next 5 minutes have been canceled due to lack of sponsorship.
Yeah, but then Ford will come in for the Ford Final 5. Have you heard that one?
Oh, yeah. The Ford Final 5, the Rocket Mortgage Final 5. It drives me crazy.
Sometimes we're lucky enough to get Power Plays sponsored as well.
This Power Play is sponsored by... Like,
why would you want to sponsor something that was negative? 50% negative.
Well, 50%, depending who's watching, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it's a high sticking penalty, the Power Play could be sponsored by Band-Aid. That would make sense.
It would make sense.
Right? Because you had some value back into whatever caused the penalty. Or sponsored by Sherwood Hockey Sticks, because we make the best hockey stick.
Yeah.
I don't know. But to sponsor things like that just drives me crazy.
You know, and I'm hoping that you've seen this, and if you haven't, I have something beautiful to show you. Have you seen Pasternak get a penalty, and they play that little video clip when he gets the penalty, he's going to the box, and then the whistle starts? There's that 30-second thing, and they show the game in one little box, and then they show a little commercial in the other one, and then you get the audio from the commercial.
Mm-hmm. I have seen that.
Some of the Boston players have filmed commercials about themselves getting penalties. So one of them, I think, is Pasternak going into Dunkin' Donuts, and he's talking to the person at the cashier or whatever, and he's like, yeah, they gave me a penalty, so I'm just here to get some donuts or whatever. It's awesome. It's so good.
I've not paid attention, but that's hilarious.
Okay,
that's hilarious.
Because I need to show you, because it's awesome.
That is great. And so that it's not just on the Jumbotron, that's on the TV broadcast.
Yeah, it's
that's hilarious.
Specifically for it's.
I love that.
It's awesome.
That is great.
It's so good. So mad props to the Boston Bruins for that.
That's very smart.
And that's it, I think, I would assume.
And commercials can be smart and funny and connected.
Yes.
So why not?
It's such a good example of how to make a commercial the proper way.
Yeah.
So.
But any more toenail fungus commercials on hockey?
I don't know if Americans get these commercials.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's not only a Canadian disease. I don't even know how prevalent toenail fungus is out there, folks. But just looking at the commercial, I want to projectile vomit. I want to spew.
Talk about the one where they lift the nail.
There's one a couple of years back where they some cartoon character lifted the toenail of some guy, like the hood of a car, and the fungus creatures were all inside. I just about lost my lunch right there. There's nothing. Feet, first off, feet are gross. All feet are gross.
I agree.
Secondly, feet with foreign objects growing in them or around them is just, should never be on television.
Why does that need to be on TV?
Why does it need to be on TV?
And why does it need to be that visual?
Like,
if you have a problem with your feet, go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor and get something. Get them cut off. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
But that,
it's gross. I agree. It's gross. It does not need to be a commercial.
And why in a hockey game?
Yeah.
What is it about hockey games?
Athlete's foot.
The final thing.
Yeah.
Stupid stats. Stupid stats.
This isn't new. We've talked about this before. What specific stupid stat are you complaining about?
During Game 5, Toronto-Boston,
mm-hmm.
the stat read out on the air was, lifetime, in the history of the entire team, Toronto is 7-2 in Game 5s against Boston. So that includes stats going right back to
20s?
Probably. I don't know when 7-game series started, but probably eons ago.
Yeah, I think it was like the 80s or something like that.
Oh, maybe even more than that. But Toronto is 7-2 in Game 5s against Boston in the history of both teams. A stat, in order to be interesting, a stat has to be relevant to today.
It's like if they played those 9 series back to back to back today, that stat would be relevant. But the fact that a series happened in, we'll say, the 70s, when you don't even know the lineup. Like, who was the good team back then? Who was the bad team? Oh, maybe Game 5 was maybe they won the series 4-1, and everyone knew they were going to win that game. Maybe it was 2-2, and now it's 3-2. Like the game that just happened. Like, you're right. That stat means nothing.
They did a similar stat for the Colorado-Calgary series, where Colorado had a certain record, lifetime, including the Nordiques.
I disagree with that.
Lifetime against other teams in certain games.
You shouldn't be allowed to include the previous location's team.
And guess what? It's only going to get worse, because now the NHL has made this deal with the devil in Las Vegas for all these weirdo stats. There will be numbers coming out of announcers' mouths that you never would have dreamed of. It's going to be awful.
Once we have access to this information, every single podcast, I'm going to make the most ridiculous stat to you. I'm going to read it out loud.
It's going to be hilarious.
Just for your entertainment.
And as ridiculous as it will be, it won't necessarily be the most ridiculous one that week.
That's true.
Because that'll be available on our televisions.
All right. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thanks for joining me for this podcast. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching or listening, regardless of how you consume our content. We really appreciate that. Hope you're having fun watching lots of hockey. If you haven't seen our series recap videos, hope you can go check those out. And please subscribe down below if you're not subscribed already. And we'll see you in the next podcast, number 73, coming at you next Sunday. Adios.